think that's very important. I think in the interest of time, we'll move ahead to the next talk by Professor Rajesh Sinha. He's from the RPC AIMS New Delhi, and he's the chief instructor of this course, and a very interesting talk on cross-linking in thin corneas and oxygen supplemented cross-linking.
Thanks, Dr. Amit. I'll be talking about thin corneas, which we were discussing just now. So the biggest problem is that if the corneal thickness is less than 400 microns, then if you do cross-linking, there's a risk of damage to the endothelium. And that is what has been, we have been, reading for the last few decades. So one thing that has come up is hypoosmolar riboflavin, which Dr. Vijay was mentioning, which can be used in cases of thin corneas. And thin corneas as thin as up to 320 microns has been found to swell up to 400 by use of hypoosmolar riboflavin, and then you can go ahead and do it. The effect is not as good as conventional cross-linking, but there is some effect definitely, and it's better to do get something rather than nothing. So that's why cross-linking hypoosmolar is done in conditions wherein the cornea is thin. Second thing is that people have used contact lens assisted CXL, but the effect is less. Why? Because we know that cross-linking works mainly in anterior two-thirds of cornea. Part of it is discarded by contact lens. Then you have the UV rays are impeded because there is a presence of post-lens tear film. And that is also the reason why the effect is less. Then people used lenticule, SMILE lenticule over the cornea so that there is no post-lens tear film. But again, following the same principle that cross-linking works in anterior two-thirds of cornea and you are discarding part of it, that is SMILE lenticule. So the demarcation line will be shallow and the effect will not be that great. People have also used transepithelial CXL, but it has been shown to have 1/5 the effect of a conventional cross-linking. So that's why we just thought that if we increase the thickness of the cornea and then do cross-linking, it will not only increase the tectonic strength of the cornea, but also enable us to do cross-linking with safety. And that's why we started this study almost 7 years back when we created a negative meniscus lenticule, stromal lenticule, and we did accelerated cross-linking in order to have increased bulk, biomechanical strength. And with the negative meniscus lenticule, it has an arc shortening effect because there is a central thin part of the lenticule and peripheral thick part, so it will have an arc shortening effect. It will cause central flattening. We gave the terminology FLAC, that is femtosecond laser assisted intrastomal lenticule implantation with accelerated cross-linking, and it has been accepted for publication. Now, one thing we have to remember, we have to use it in cone size less than 6 millimeters, because otherwise if it's more than that, then the peripheral thick part will come over the cone and that will distort, that will further elevate the elevation of the cornea. So this is how we create a donor lenticule from microkeratome is used to create a 200 micron lenticule from a donor cornea. It is dried up and then the central 4 millimeter is ablated with excimer laser. Very simple procedure to create a negative meniscus lenticule. And we have a peripheral thick part, 75 microns is ablated, so 200 microns in the periphery and 125 in the center, and then it is implanted inside. When we started first, we started using the VisuMax machine, wherein we could create a 7.8 millimeter pocket. We created the pocket and infused riboflavin. But there we could implant only a 7 millimeter lenticule, and part of it was coming over the cone. And that is why we used to get a very strange and unpredictable result. So this is the lenticule which is inserted inside, and then it is straightened, and then you can just tap it and it straightens up nicely, and put riboflavin and go ahead and do a cross-linking. Then we moved on to FS200, no financial interest, wherein we could create a 9 millimeter pocket. So we could create a 9 millimeter pocket and we could implant an 8.5 millimeter lenticule. So this was the advantage. So we could dissect, inject riboflavin into the pocket, and then inserted this lenticule, negative meniscus lenticule, into the pocket, and then cross-linking was done. We also have a subset of patients wherein we have put a suture. In one group, we have not put a suture. We just wanted to see whether suture will have a more pressurizing effect so that we can have more arc shortening. I mean, that's only the results will say. We have not analyzed so far. And so post-operatively, we give antibiotic, steroid, and lubricant. What we notice initially that we create two interfaces. So there is risk of haze formation. So in order to reduce the haze, we started putting more steroid and prolonged steroid. And now, initially, when we used to give steroid only for 2 months or so, wherein we used to get haze, now we have moved on to 6 months to 1 year of topical steroid, and that is how we do, and we get minimal haze. Still, I would say that there is some degree of haze, and we have to be really careful in giving steroid. Particularly, initially, we have to give at least 6 times topical steroid so that the risk of haze is less. Because finally, cross-linking works by, covalent bond, and that bond creates a little bit of subclinical scar, and that if you have two interfaces, the risk of that haze is more. So we have to give steroid to reduce that. And some of the cases will show as good as this, but not all cases will show as good as this. Some will have little bit of haze as well. So it does have some limitation. And we have moved on to, we are comparing it with Baumann stromal inlay as well, wherein we don't do cross-linking. And so just showing a few topographic maps. Now, this is a case wherein the K1, K2 was 53.9 and 59.2. Post-op, it improved to 52 and 53.7. So it improved significantly. This is one case wherein it was 52.7 and 56.6. Post-op, it improved to 49.2 and 50.2. And Kmax also reduced significantly. But having said that, if the cone is larger than 6 millimeter, the results can be bizarre, and you have to select the case. And that you can select the case by seeing the posterior float as we select in intracorneal ring segments. The results that we found out was reasonably good. We found out that, but having said that, it is not a refractive procedure. It is a tectonic procedure wherein the patient may not require keratoplasty perhaps for life, or maybe for very long period. That is the advantage. As I said, interface haze is an issue which we have to take care. And so in this study, we concluded that Filac provides tectonic strength, causes reduction in keratometry, has an arc shortening effect, but it's not a refractive procedure, and it should be avoided in very eccentric and large cones. Another thing that has come up has been reported by Farhad Hafeezi group is adaptive fluence, wherein they have used 3 milliwatt per centimeter square in different thickness of cornea, and they have shown good results. This is sub 400 protocol. They have shown good results to as thin as 214 microns, which actually flouts the basic teaching that we have been doing, that if the corneal thickness is less than 400 microns, endothelium will get affected. So, as I said, sub 400 protocol flouts the concept of risk of endothelial damage in thin corneas, and we all know that 30 milliwatt per centimeter square for 3 minutes, that is accelerated cross-linking protocol, is not as effective as the 9 milliwatt per centimeter square for 10 minutes, as Dr. Vijay was mentioning, as the conventional resident protocol. So how can 2 minutes, 3 milliwatt per centimeter square work in 214 microns cornea? So there is a big question mark in that, and that is why perhaps it has not come up. As far as CXL-based oxygen supplementation is concerned, the basis of this was that there was some animal study from Theo Seiler group wherein they showed that the oxygen concentration goes down to 0 in stroma once the eye is exposed to UV rays, and after 1 minute it goes to 0, and that's why they supplemented oxygen and they found good results in animal studies. And this is from Avedro, no financial interest. This cost about 3,000 euros, and we created an indigenous oxygen goggle, which we reported, and it was published in European Journal of Ophthalmology. We connected it to anesthesia machine from where the oxygen was pushed into this periocular area, and the oxygen saturation was measured with this cannula, and this was connected to the anesthesia machine, and 5 liter per minute was the, 5 liter per minute was the rate, and we found out that the oxygen saturation was about 84 to 85 around in the periocular area. We did the study. There was a slightly better reduction of Kmax, but the results were not as dramatic as we had thought. More the oxygen, more the covalent bond, more the flattening. That's not the case. And we have just sent it, and it has been accepted for publication in JCRS, that there are certain other factors as well, and it is just not oxygen that is responsible for it. And we also compared an EP off versus EP on cross-linking with oxygen supplementation in borderline corneas, 400, 410 microns, and we found out that EP off was better than EP on with oxygen supplementation. So oxygen supplementation is not something which is a dramatic thing, which is the game changer. There's something else into it, and we are working on this, and maybe we can come up with some more ideas. So in conclusion, I would like to say that cross-linking is an effective procedure, an established procedure. In thin corneas, it has been used, many techniques have been used, but if we strengthen the cornea by intrastomal lenticule, that too with a negative meniscus, large diameter lenticule, we can have an arc shortening effect, and we will be able to use cross-linking as an effective modality to stabilize the cone and stabilize keratoconus and prevent the requirement of keratoplasty in future. Thank you very much.
I think what an amazing talk, and it's this kind of an innovation, I think, which ultimately will lead you to the ultimate cure for keratoconus. Colonel Vijay, any comments from your side, please?
Thank you.
You are implanting 200 micron thickness of the lenticule. So how much increase in corneal thickness does it cause? It must be compacting after.
Yeah. We are actually, you can call the next one meanwhile. We are actually doing it in eyes wherein we have a minimal thickness of 320 microns. So we put it at the level of 150. So we should have about 150 below that as well, so as to sustain it. So it increases the thickness to close to about 470, 480, and then it thins out after that. And it comes down to, like, when it goes to 480, 490, sometimes even 500 plus, and it thins out to about 440, 450, 460, but it's cross-linked as well. So stabilized and 450, 440 microns. As I said, it's a tectonic procedure. It's not a refractive procedure. For visual rehabilitation, we do prescribe miniscleral contact lens in these patients, and in most of these cases, the visual acuity is very good. Even with a mild haze, the miniscleral contact lens works well and has given visual acuity of 6.9. And if a patient who has such a bad visual acuity, 320, 330 microns, irregular cornea, is having 6.9 vision and for life, then nothing like it, because as such keratoplasty also has its own problems.
Dr. Rajesh, do you think that cross-linking it accentuates the haze, like, because
yes,
so
that is what I'm thinking, and that's why
to just follow up,
yeah,
and only in case of progression you go ahead with the cross-linking.
I completely agree with you, because cross-linking does cause haze, because I have used Baumann stromal inlay without cross-linking and it does not cause haze. The only thing is that, I'm doing a comparative study also. That's an ICMR project. And, but the only thing is that, cross-linking has its effect. Whether without cross-linking only Baumann stromal inlay will be as effective as, stromal inlay with cross-linking, that is what we are comparing. And if it is working, then yes. Yes, cross-linking increases the risk of haze, but we have to give topical steroid intensively.
So with this oxygen supplementation right now, you would not recommend? That's a
Yes,
major
I
game changer
think I
to our
I have done 2-3 studies on these. I mean, due to paucity of time, I could not. I had to hurry up. But oxygen supplementation in itself is not a mathematical thing that more the oxygen, more the effect. This is what is the punchline that I would like to say here.
And Dresden we know works anyway without the
Dresden works, accelerated 9 milliwatt per centimeter square for 10 minutes, works nearly the same as Dresden.
They're the same. Well, thank you. We'll have more questions towards the end.